Blocking, the unsung hero of the wall system. We're going to talk about where you install it, how to install it, and why you install it. We're also going to get into the updates on the Jack and Jill bathroom. Got a bunch of stuff going on in there. And about the staircase, there was a part of the ceiling that I forgot to fix. Well, it's no longer forgotten. Welcome to High Peaks Home, where it's my goal to inform you about all the inner workings of the home. And this is Frankie, the Abandoned House, episode 30. Guess what we're going to talk about? Blocking! Because that's what this episode's about. Blocking. Well, I've been telling you, where we put the blocking and, the whole fuely finger and all of that. But I haven't actually showed why. Why? Blocking is more than just keeping your sheetrock from cracking. I mean, that's the visual thing that everyone sees, right? You walk into a space and like, oh, there's a crack. Why is there a crack? Oh, the house is settling. House is falling. It's not. Well, it might be. You never know. But when it comes to setting your blocking, you have multiple goals. And one of them is to keep all your studs in plumb, which is, straight up and down. And in order to achieve that, you gotta be very careful when you go through and you start measuring for your blocks. Now, if all your walls are perfect and it's all 16 on center, what you're gonna have is 14.5-inch blocks, because that's what the math works out to be. But if you go to measure this span here at the level that you're going to be installing it, chances are really good that one of your studs or both your studs are bowed. And if they're 16 on center here and 16 on center here, in the center, it could be, a 15.5-inch, 16-inch. It could be some sort of distance in the middle that's not the same at the bottom or at the top. So if your layout is done correctly, your middle should be the same distance at the bottom and the top. So whenever you take your measurement, I'm not gonna get a ladder and measure up there every time. I'm gonna take the measurement from the bottom. Take that measurement, that's what I cut my block to, that's what I set in there, and I nail it off. And I may have to manipulate the stud to do what I needed to do in order to get the block in there. But that's how I do it, and it always works really well. Unless I'm working in someone else's work. So in a job like this guy, Frankie's been all over the board. Mind you, the vast majority of the walls I've built. So it hasn't been that big of a deal. But whenever I'm intersecting a previously existing wall, it's all over the place. So on that one, I may have to get the measurement at the top and the bottom, take the average, and put the block in. Anyway, I digress. When you have this small little section here, let's say this is 3 inches, right? You can't just put a 3-inch block in with a wood grain running this direction. You go to nail it, it's gonna blow apart. Every time. Every time, it's gonna blow apart. So, what I mean by that, so you have your block, right? You've been installing them like this. You want to install another block just like that. If you were to cut this off and nail it in, especially using a nail gun, it's just going to blow the wood apart. It's not going to do anything. It might stay there, but it's not actually functioning as anything. So what I do, if it's under 3.5 inches, the width of your block, is I'll rip the piece that I need and put the wood grain in this orientation, and then nail it off. And now it's super solid, it's strong, it's tying all this together. And when you're intersecting, one wall going one direction, another wall going the other direction, it's actually pretty important to get that to really lock in. You don't want any sort of movement in your corners, because you're gonna end up getting sheetrock cracking. From a structural standpoint, is the wall gonna fall apart? Nope, it's not. But how simple is that?
Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to blocking is that you can use a block to straighten a twisted 2x4. Now, if you have both your cuts completely square, now you can check that with a speed square. And I've got this handy dandy little miniature speed square. Put that in there. Now you can see the gap there. So what I do is when I nail the stud to this block, it'll straighten that guy out. Now this is going to be a wraparound corner. So both exterior corners. I don't want this to have a twist in it. And if you go all the way up here, you can really see how she's twisted. So I'll add another block right here and do the same thing to take that twist out. Now once I check or put that block in and then nail this block in, I'll check the bottom to verify it hasn't twisted. All right, blocks are installed. You can see the gap is no longer there. Got the extra block in. This block here is there, and then you don't have the gap there. And down here, it didn't twist. So that tells me all the twist that was in this 2x was all in this upper half, and we're able to correct it. Super. So down there in Florida, there's a channel called Rehab Life, and he's been an avid viewer of High Peaks Home. First off, thank you for that. I really appreciate all the interaction I've received from you. It's been a lot of fun. And a while back, when I built this little pony wall, he made a comment about there not being any blocking at the bottom. Well, sir, blocking's installed. As I was looking around with my fuely finger, I went across this ceiling here, and I ended up right there. Because I got too ambitious that day and forgot to do something. So, let me show you the problem. So you remember these, when I went ahead and put all these in to flatten the ceiling out? Jacked on it, it didn't take any pressure at all to get these guys to move up, which was really quite nice. What I didn't do was this one. So this is underhung. My ceiling's surface is going to be starting here. And so as this one is here and that one as well. So I'll cut all these out and reframe this and see what else my fuely finger can find.
That's right. Here's why I love you. You're making an argument for and also an argument against me coming back and doing it.
From a framing standpoint, preparing for sheetrock, I feel like the kitchen area is finished, and then the front bedroom is finished, and now I'm in the Jack and Jill bathroom. And I'm gonna take that old fuely finger, which we talked about several episodes ago, and I'm just gonna point it around the room and follow the finger around and see if I can find any deficiencies in the framing. So, we have this wall here. Now I know that I left this wall a little bit proud, or I guess farther away from the tub than it needs to be. So I know this wall needs to get furred out, so I need to get that measurement. And I did that to give us more plumbing access in that area. Now, I can see above this wall, there's nothing for sheetrock to hit, so we need to fix that. Those corners are good. The inside corner is good. Well, here's something you missed. Trying for straight foam. Not this. There's nothing. The sheetrock comes this way. There's nothing here. So I'm going to change some foam out and fix that. That's. This man blocking in this wall over here is not done. That's all good. Oh, we've got a stud missing over there. That's good. More this man blocking through the wall you're in. And the finish running out the closet. So, looks like we're going to be in the Jack and Jill for the rest of the afternoon. At least. Can you hear that rain? It's just coming down. And honestly, I need to run outside to run out to the dunny, and I don't wanna. See how long I can hold out for that. The tub is pretty much where it's gonna live. And so when looking at this whole thing, what I noticed is I set this stud at a 16 center. So from center of this is 16 inches away from center of this. Now, what that is, but the problem is, I mean, it's pretty much in line with the overflow here, which means the piping's right there. There's enough clearance here to get your hand in there, but it's really not, it's not ideal. And depending on how I offset this, will depend on how I hang the sheetrock. So what I'm thinking is that I should have a horizontal run all the way through here, and then you can have the 2x4 stud land there. Okay, fine. So that opens up this so we can put a little removable panel right here, and you get access to the plumbing if you ever needed to. Well, that's all well and good, except that now when you're in the tub, now where's your mixing valve go? The stud in the way of the mixing valve. And when you look all the way up, when you're gonna put the shower head in, the shower head is now in the way. Jiminy. So that stud is just not okay. Now, if I were to offset it in one way or the other, you're gonna have too much of a span on the sheetrock. So I could put a bunch of blocking in, or I could do horizontal runs 16-inch on center and make sure that they're not exactly right where I want to have the mixing valve or the spout for the tub or the shower head. So I think that is going to be the route I take. So I got to tear this back apart and put a whole bunch of blocking in. Yep. The other side of this little wall is the bathtub. And so what I wanted to do was make sure I had continuous blocking so that we can mount the shower head and the mixing valve and the tub spout all against something firm. So you ever go into a bathtub and you grab that mixing valve or the spout to pull up the little drain stopper and it all moves? I can't stand that. So I'm gonna make sure that does not happen in this house. And we also have the capability of either going with sheetrock or tile and or the tub surround insert things, whatever those things are called. And I put extra blocking in right here so that when we go to put shelves in here, we have something firm to mount our shelving brackets to. And above me is what I put the attic access in as. So by making these super strong, we could actually make the shelves structural enough, if we wanted to climb up into the attic space. I don't know, just a thought. Don't know if I'll do it or not, but that's where my head was at. Now, quite honestly, I don't know if this little scenario is going to be the right answer for this installation. But I'm willing to experiment a little bit on something that I own. Now, if I were to go to a customer's house and came up with this idea, chances are I wouldn't do it because I've never seen it done this way. So I'm gonna give it a go. And obviously take you guys along for the ride and find out how well it works or if it doesn't work at all. Put a comment down there below, see what you think. I'm curious. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode and thank you for stopping by High Peaks Home. You're so far away. You're so far away from me.